G'day from Australia. Well, to be exact, North Queensland, here in the tropics. Greg again. Been a bit slack posting this video, but I wanted to make sure I had something important to say. Although, not sure if this is important or not, but I did go to the doctor the other day, share a couple of funny things that happened. He said to me, he asked me if I'd had a prostate exam. I told him I got a B+ for history once, you know. Anyway, then he asked a very strange question. He said, "How are things in the bedroom?" And I said, "Well, I could do with a bit more closet space." He was looking a bit puzzled at this time. Anyway, we got off that subject. And for some reason, I thought I'm on a roll here. So for some reason, he said, "I want to test you for Alzheimer's." And I said, "Listen, that's not a problem, Doc. And while you're at it, you can test me for Alzheimer's." So, yeah. Anyway, the next question was, he said, "Do you know what day it is?" And my reply was, "Well, Doc, if you don't know what day it is, you're the one with the problem." So, yeah. Anyway, I did go to the doctor the other day. Some of that perhaps didn't happen, but I thought I'd just have a bit of fun with you there. All good. But I thought I'd sort of share a couple of things. I think this is mainly probably for people who are maybe 55, 60 over. I've been having a wonderful time with my kids lately. Didn't spend a lot of time with them when I was younger. I was married at 21, would you believe? Don't get married at 21, you guys, girls. Bit of advice there from an old bloke. Well, although 71's the new 61, they tell me, so that's all good. Yeah, and I didn't have a lot of time with the kids when they were growing up. And I was thinking about the people we hurt in life emotionally and the people we help in life. I think that was the case with my first marriage. My first wife came from a difficult situation. Father was a heavy drinker, lived in a small rented house, didn't know whether the rent was there every Friday or whether it had been wasted on grog. Not a very nice guy when he was drinking, quite nice when he wasn't drinking, but anyway. Lived in a pretty tense environment, and I think I helped to get out of that situation. And as I say, we got married. I was married at 21, she was 22 and a half. And the marriage only lasted about 7-8 years. And I guess it hurt her when the marriage finished in some ways, although she ended up marrying a guy perhaps that she should have married in the first place, a next door neighbour that she grew up with, and they're still married, and happily. But, it's the children that really sort of come into this, especially when they're younger. And she was a little bit bitter and didn't allow me to see the children very much. And I probably should have, had some formal things in place, but I didn't want to rock the boat. And, so just financially you hand over everything to make sure everybody's okay, and, you move on and you start again, which is what I decided to do. But the point I'm trying to make is this, that, that's life as humans. We can hurt people, but in our life, I'm sure we've helped people as well. I remember a situation in my life when I was 16. I left school at 15 and a half. I was working in a department store, and there was a car park that had a big slant on it. And I was just arriving for work, and the brakes on this truck gave way and was careering down the car park toward a row of houses at a fair rate. I was running pretty fast back then, so I managed to jump in and put the handbrake on before it hit the houses. I don't know who was living in those houses. I have no idea. But maybe I helped the situation then. If I, it's a bit like It's a Wonderful Life, where he reflects that if he wishes he wasn't born in some respects, but then, the film reveals how much he helped people through his life, and he wasn't there. If he wasn't there, some pretty bad things could have happened to some people. And I think we're pretty hard on ourselves sometimes, aren't we? And really, I think we need to forgive ourselves a little bit if we are, if we're thinking sort of negative things, because the world's, surrounded by negative things. The young people today, I don't know. I wouldn't like to be growing up. Wouldn't like to be in my 20s now, because as a lot of you know, back in the 60s and 70s, I reckon times were easier. To be honest, a lot easier than young people are facing today, because a lot of them really don't know how to socialise, I suppose, because all they can do is socialise from a distance. A lot of the time they can be in the same house and they're in just separate rooms and they just text each other, which is pretty sad, instead of going around saying, hey, you want to have a talk about this or talk about that. And so it's pretty tough for them. And I think a lot of them look at us and perhaps think we had it easy. And in some respects, I think we did. But in other respects, I think we also overcame a lot of things, which young people need to do today as well. It's a different world. Is it a better world? I don't know. It's how we see things through our own mindset, isn't it? But it's tough out there. Even in our age group, for some of you, there's a lot of people living on their own now, a lot of lonely people, there's help out there. I think, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, that do something. If you're feeling a bit down, do something the next day. Do something different that you've never done before, whatever it is. Maybe you don't. Maybe you go for a walk and you don't speak to people normally. How about going for a walk and the next person that comes past say, hey, great day, isn't it? Or whatever. Or if they're walking your dogs, pat the dog and say, hey, make sure it doesn't bite. We don't want that. We don't want that to happen either. But I think we've got to have a bit of fun in life, don't we? Isn't it all a little bit too serious? Politics, finances. I can't remember in the 70s, getting a stock market report every day. But it's just everything's there in front of us, isn't it? So I think for, as I said, people 55 and over, maybe. I mentioned earlier having a wonderful time with my children now, and it's been a long time. My son's in his late 40s now, daughter's in mid 40s, and one of my daughters, I still don't have a lot to do with her, but I don't sort of force the issue. I reckon when she's ready to spend a bit of time with me, she'll do that on her own. But the other two children I'm really getting to know, and which is absolutely fantastic, because in some ways you see a mirror of yourself there and you say, hey, yeah, that's me when I was that age or younger or whatever. And then they see themselves in me as certain aspects of their personality, whatever they do, or whatever skills they have sometimes, which they pick up from one parent or another. And it's just brilliant. But it's been a long time, a long time. And you miss out on a lot. I wish, I'd had this relationship earlier. But as I mentioned a while ago, that life is, made up of seasons. And this is the season where I'm getting to know my kids again, which is just a lovely feeling. And it's a whole new world for them too, meeting my side of the family and spending more time with them as well. And had I perhaps forced that early on and said, hey, I insist on seeing the children when they were younger, every second weekend I insist on seeing them and this and that, it might have created more problems, but I don't know. That's just how I handled things back then. I just wanted them to be safe, have a roof over their head, and hopefully have some contact. I would have liked to have more contact than I did, but that just wasn't to be. But making up for that, which is fantastic. I don't know how many of you in that situation. Maybe you haven't seen one of your children for a long time for whatever reason. Maybe it's time to take the first step. I don't know. I mean, that's your decision. I don't know your situation, but I don't think you'll regret it, because I'm sure you won't regret it, because there's something about that biological connection that can overcome, so much, and can really sort of help, the children and yourself. But life's tough, but my gosh, as mentioned before, we're overcomers. We overcome stuff. The generation beforehand, as I mentioned, Mum's 101, 102 this year. She overcomes anything, whether she had a fall, a couple of years ago had a fall, broke her elbow. She overcame that, and to go through that when you're in your late 90s is pretty tough. And I think one of the most important things is that she keeps involved in the family, always asking, okay, what's happening here, what's doing there, and gives advice about this and that and what have you. And it's nice, it's great, because that's what she's always done through her life, and even now she still does that, which is fantastic. So really lucky to have her. Dad was when I think back, he died at 95. Dad was a great father. He, that age, that generation, a lot of the time they did it really tough. He was brought up with a single mum, and their fathering skills they never learned too much. But he was just a really supportive, loving guy. Even though pretty hard for that generation to actually come out and say, I love you. It's even hard for me to say that to my kids. But it's not so much the words, is it? It's the things we do and how we relate. So it's been great catching up again. I just encourage you that relationships that have maybe could be a close friend, could be an acquaintance, whatever. A relationship that once was a good or strong relationship, or somebody that you knew once that maybe it's time to reach out and say hi. What do you think? Anyway, keep well. Pretty warm here, 30 degrees, but not humid. So nice sort of dry season in tropical North Queensland. I'm wishing you all the best, and keep happy, keep well, and we'll catch up soon. Hopefully I won't be quite as long between videos, huh? Okay. Goodbye from Australia. See ya.